It's dorkshelf.com. You're now rocking with TDF Everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's Spoiled Rotten.
It's Spoiled Rotten Easter Weekend Edition. We are coming
Yeah, we're recording.
pre-recorded to you.
So it's me, Daniel.
Yeah, it's Ben.
Excellent. I feel like everyone gets what the podcast is
Yeah,
about.
you guys get what we're doing right
gonna-
now on our shelf, our new home at Dork Shelf.
Yeah.
We're
We're going to talk about some news items. And
Yeah, we're
then-
definitely going to return to some of the rumor stuff because last time we did a double feature of Lara Croft and Tomb Raider as well as Jessica Jones, and there was just a bit too much to talk about. But today we're doing Ready Player One as well as our usual lineup of rumors, what's been going on, what you guys need to pay attention to, and anything that's are worthy of our speculation on this podcast. So, without further ado, let's launch right into it.
Without any speculation, we just know for a fact that, oh boy, in Captain Marvel,
Yes.
although we did lose DeWanda Wise,
Yep.
as well, no one gave her an actual, but people were thinking she was the original Captain Marvel.
Right. Like the Kree version of it, or like
Something
yeah.
like that. Something to that extent. I don't remember who's replacing her, so I feel bad about that, but she's been replaced. But the good news, while I vamp for time because my phone is not working for me, is we've got, I guess not technically 4. We already knew about Nick Fury, but 3 cool additions to the cast.
Correct.
In the form of Jaimon Hansu's Korath. I don't remember if that's his name, but
He's the guy that was like
he was
who?
in the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, he's the
but
guy that doesn't know who Star-Lord is.
But I feel like he has like a name, like you know how
He
there's
does.
Ronan the Accuser.
Yeah.
He's Korath the something.
He's got a small little
Yeah.
role and everything like
you
that.
can look that up while I basically say Ronan the Accuser is in this as well. So Lee Pace.
Correct.
I'm assuming they're bringing back Lee Pace to play that. They just said
He better be.
Ronan the Accuser is in it, but they never really said. But
Well, no, they
his
said
thing
Lee
is not
Pace.
age. They
I
did?
believe
Okay,
they
good.
said Lee Pace. I believe.
Either way,
Yep.
I don't think it would be age sensitive like Nick Fury and the
No.
other person who's going to be back, which actually made me happy. I didn't think I would care.
Coulson.
But yeah, Phil Coulson will be back.
Yep.
And
I'm
they can-
really happy about
Yeah.
that because of like ever since the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing, it's like please just re-acknowledge him in the universe and then like everything like
This
that.
is their cheat code.
This
They
is their
can-
cheat code of doing it like
It's
in the 90s,
so
version
it
of
doesn't
but
matter.
I sincerely hope that he has a cameo at least coming up in Infinity War, but I don't know. Like I don't know where S.H.I.E.L.D's at right now. I don't care to find out where they're at. It's just what it is. But yep, that's where we're at. So I'm really really happy for those guys to be coming back. Korath.
Does he have like a?
Nope, there's no Korath the whatever. It's just Korath.
That's too bad.
So that's,
Anyway, he'll be there, so that's
and
good.
I always love seeing him in roles, so it's gonna be pretty fantastic to see him have a bigger role. Now, of course, with Lee Pace coming back of Ronan and everything like that, this really does set the stage for trying to understand what happened to Ronan's people, why he's so pissed off at the beginning
The
of
Kree
Guardians.
Skrull
Yeah, the
War.
Kree Skull War is really really big here, so we're really looking forward to that. And of course, Captain Marvel has definitely officially begun its principal photography, so it leads to speculation was the test shoots that we saw a few months back, I should say, was that were those scenes shot for Avengers 4, or was it like test shootings for the screen stuff? We don't know, but hopefully it's for Captain Avengers 4. We'll see what it's all about. But
I think it was pretty much confirmed as
Yep.
Avengers when Mark Ruffalo said she doesn't know how to act with a Hulk.
right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
But
So
good stuff.
yeah, the other thing in MCU news is that this is not a big loss for me, but Matt Damon decided he didn't want to be the villain in the sequel to Spider-Man: Homecoming.
That is correct.
I'm
So-
fine if he doesn't do movies anymore.
Yeah.
But that would have been.
I've
I
never
guess a
really
big get.
seen him as a villain either. I've never seen him in like an evil
never seen
role.
talented Mr. Ripley then.
I don't think I have. No.
You haven't seen him just in his regular day life then.
I have seen him in his regular day life, and that's why he's not too menacing. It's just more of a bumbling idiot that's kind of bigoted.
No.
But either way, with Damon losing, of course, the speculation for who the villain is more interesting than the actual fact that he turned it down. Of course, there's been rumors of Kraven the Hunter being brought up, or just any kind of off-screen character that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's just like who's going to be the best. Like, who were they looking for with Damon? And that's a really, really interesting speculation. What do you think?
I didn't put any thought into it, really. I don't know.
See, I was definitely thinking something like Mysterio would make a lot of sense.
That makes
to me.
sense.
Because I feel like, even though Marvel's not directly saying this, I feel like they are trying to set the stage up for some sort of Sinister Six kind of
Well, I think that's what they were doing in Homecoming when
for sure. With the
Scorpion and Vulture
were
were
brought up for sure. I mean, like two of the six are already brought up. So
and I don't think that's a Marvel thing. I think it's a Sony thing because they had that script for the Sinister Six. So
Absolutely.
I think they can try and get back around to that, especially spinning off other stuff. So I didn't even think to speculate as to who they were going to get. But Mysterio makes sense to me.
Mysterio makes sense to me, but I thought who would be really, really cool is Hobgoblin. I mean, I don't think he can I don't think he can be a great Hobgoblin, especially without Green Goblin. Especially, because the casting rumors like a while back that we didn't get a chance to talk about this during our podcast and everything like that. Was someone older and someone younger, so that were supposed to be a part of this. So I'm thinking Norman and Harry Osborn are going to be introduced into this world. But then again, it comes into the problem of if they introduce Harry and Norman Osborn, then we have the same Harry and Norman Osborn story
I don't think we're going to get
every
that
single time. So I actually don't think that's going to happen. But Chameleon might be an interesting thing. Or they were also saying Alistair Smythe, but I really don't. I can't see him playing Smythe very, very well, to be perfectly honest, just because Smythe really does have that English accent and that like whole English mannerism to me. And Damon
I can see Matt Damon being smarmy.
He'd definitely be smarmy. I think he's better Mysterio than anything else.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I just hope they don't go that route. I'm not a fan of shape-shifting villains.
Yeah.
But it looks like that's where they're going with Skrull, so they might as well do it with like somebody like Chameleon or Mysterio who can change the appearance of other things. So it always seems kind of like a cheat, but
I mean, it really does. And this is one of those things too that if the internet rumors are right, or the internet Reddit kind of fan theories are right, and I've been really thinking about this a lot lately. If they do Avengers 4 as a setup for Phase 4 to be the Secret Wars kind of invasion, especially with the Captain Marvel Kree kind of stuff, the evidence does seem to be there. That would be very, very interesting. But at the same time, I think because of the shape-shifting stuff that you don't like, and that I would be like, oh, come on, that was a clone the entire time? Like, that pisses me off. Like, I don't know how to feel about that.
I mean, I didn't think I wanted to see Civil War realistically, and they made me like that. So but I think good. Hope they get someone good. Yeah. If they were reaching for Matt Damon, that says that they clearly are looking for another A-list. Person. They're not looking for an unknown.
Yeah, they're not looking for an unknown. I think they like the idea of what they did with
Michael Keaton.
With Michael Keaton and the Vulture, with him being so good and him being like an A-lister and everything like that. But was that just because Keaton's just such a great actor in everything he does? We don't know.
To be fair to Matt Damon, he is also a great actor.
Matt Damon is a fantastic actor.
I'm just fine with him not doing stuff anymore. Moving on to the Fox side of Marvel.
Oh dear.
Dark Phoenix and New Mutants got pushed back.
Yes.
So this is the second time New Mutants has been pushed back.
And it's been pushed back significantly too.
Till August of 2019.
So this is like,
I don't even remember what it got pushed back to.
Originally it was pushed back like 6 months already. And
because it was supposed to be out April.
Yeah.
So, as in this month. It was supposed to be out this month. Then
was it really supposed to be out?
Yeah, April 13th.
No.
It was supposed to be out April 13th.
That's
so it was already
ridiculous.
done, and they were like, we're going April 13th. So the fact that it got pushed back at all was not a good sign.
Oh, my God.
To next year.
Yeah, to next year.
And then it's even later. It's summer of next year.
Yep.
And I don't think August is the best Like, I don't think that month has a great track record in terms of
Why?
like movies.
But even, especially with the tone that they're trying to set with a horror kind of thing. You would
Well,
think,
I don't know that they're trying to do that because I think that was the original.
That was the
initial thing.
idea.
It was like, we're doing a horror movie. It's going to be a hard R.
So
And
you
then I
think
hear,
they're
oh, we're going to
scrapping
give
it?
you the best PG-13 movie. I'm like, okay, well, that's a step
Yeah.
back. So, and even Anya Taylor-Joy was kind of like, well, yeah, it kind of sucks because we were proud of what we did and now we're going back. And,
Right.
And I get that the pushback is also like, you know, like if you thought you were going to be able to do reshoots, you're not going to get Maisie Williams right now. She's
Right.
doing Game of Thrones.
Right,
Anya
right.
Taylor-Joy might be, Anya Taylor-Joy might be doing stuff. So the cast might not be available right now, and that's also the problem with Dark Phoenix. Both casts have big enough people that they've got other stuff going on. So the length of time that these things are being pushed back are also indicative of being able to get everyone back. And I appreciate that, and not having just a bunch of insert shots when they could get the
Yes.
the actors to come in.
Absolutely.
So if it means that everyone will be together and they're going to do it for real, that's a good sign at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah, because we don't want Josh Trank like bad wig reshoots.
Well,
again.
that won't avoid that. I don't know that fixes that. It just
No, it
fixes
doesn't fix
more.
anything. But it,
Uh,
I mean, it could. I mean, we had the mustache fiasco of 2017,
Yeah.
but we'll see what happens here. In the
yeah, I
sense where
think-
there's also speculation on the other side too. Is this a slime deal behind the scenes with Fox and Disney being like, okay, well, we can push this back a little bit more, and we're going to get our guys to retool this so that it can fit into the MCU somehow, way, shape, or form. We don't know, but I mean, like, that's
Yeah,
a big
I don't
stretch,
think
to
that
be
is
perfectly honest.
what's happening.
I don't think that's happening too. That's a huge stretch.
I
It's a
think
huge,
Fox
huge
right now
stretch.
is just operating business as usual.
Yes, they
until something
And
happens.
that's what's weird to me.
And I don't think Kevin Feige has entertained any kind of conversations about what they're going to do with Fox.
I'm with you. I personally think he's going to step away after Phase
Yeah.
3. I think he's done what he needs to do, and he's going to move on to a different kind of franchise to do his same thing, but he's done what he needs to do. It's just too much to fit in a whole nother franchise into Phase 4 when he set up the groundwork for Phase 4 already.
Yeah, I
It's too
think
much.
that what's going on is we're probably seeing, at least in New Mutants, probably with Dark Phoenix too, is issues with directors, because I think
Yes.
both movies were locked.
Mm-hmm.
So to step back now and be like, nah, we got to reshoot it. They're saying New Mutants is basically being reshot 50%,
Yes.
which probably means a new director's coming in, because I can't imagine a director being like, oh yeah, sure, I'll just reshoot like
I can't
the
see
last
that either.
8 months of my life.
No, I can't see that either.
I think that's more than any kind of hopeful Marvel Fox deal or MCU Fox deal.
Yeah.
I think there's just issues with vision,
Mhm.
and they need to get it. They need to get it right. It seems like it's not. And I remember thinking when I think it was Ty Sheridan, who is in Ready Player One.
Yep.
He was like, "Oh, it's more of a drama than anything." I was like, "That sounds horrible.
That sounds
I don't
horrible.
think that's going to be good."
Yeah.
So if they're stepping back from that and just being like, "No, let's just make a good X-Men movie," then fine.
Yep.
I also noted that they're like putting it in February, and everyone's like, "Ooh, like Black Panther." I'm like, "Yeah, but Black Panther was good."
Yeah.
And like people wanted to see that. This movie is coming off of Apocalypse, which people didn't really like, and is trying the Dark Phoenix saga again,
Right.
which didn't go well the first time.
No.
So yeah, obviously they'll get fans in, but you need more than fans, and so let's hope their February release date works. But
I just think personally a February, January release date is better to me because traditionally horror movies are released around that time.
no,
anyways.
February is Dark Phoenix, which is not a horror movie.
No, I mean, for the
New Mutants is August.
Like, if they originally planned that, then I would have been like, okay, cool. But like, they're going for August release now, which makes no sense to me. So, I mean, combine that with the information you have about them being like, no, we're taking more of a PG-13 tone. I'm like, okay, I can see what they're doing now. And they're just like, now the setting is just happening to be in a mental hospital, asylum, whatever you want to call it.
The good news is Antonio Banderas is being added to the cast.
Yes.
And I enjoy watching him. He
I
seems
really
like
do
he
enjoy watching
the last
Banderas.
couple of movies I've seen him, I was like, this guy looks like he's having a good time,
Yeah.
and that's making me have a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see him added to the cast, or potentially added to the cast.
Mhm.
And with Dark Phoenix, it looks like they did a little switcheroo because,
Oh, yeah.
as you mentioned off mic, John Hamm was supposed to film a post-credit scene
Yes.
as Mr. Sinister in New Mutants.
Correct.
But they're saying that essentially Jessica Chastain is playing Miss Sinister,
Mm-hmm.
which so she's been Lilandra,
She's been a lot
then
of
the
different things.
the Skrull Queen, and now Miss Sinister.
And it's so weird because, like,
where did you see her picture and you're just like, she just looks like a weirdo.
Looks like a weird. Like, she just looks like this mutant with albinism. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't lead itself to speculation for Mr. Sinister or Lilandra, because Lilandra is definitely she's pale, but
she did say she wasn't playing Lilandra, like flat out. So that, I mean, good for her for being honest about that. I think they were probably like, we'll figure out what she is in the edit. And then they were like, maybe she's Miss Sinister. Yeah. Let's do some reshoots, baby.
Yeah. I don't know. A gender swap for Mr. Sinister would be cool, because personally I don't think Mr. Sinister is that interesting of a character. I just think he's a really, really big physical threat.
I think this is a good idea because this one is young Scott Summers, and Mr. Sinister is so tied to Scott Summers that if that's what they're doing, that's cool.
Yep.
Other than that, I don't really have an opinion. Other than you obviously won't be able to see this if you're listening to the podcast, but that's a cool mock-up of Miss Sinister.
Yep, I would like it.
So
very, very cool.
If that's
she needs her hair dyed black as opposed to the.
Yeah, well, I mean, if she's a shapeshifter, which they've said multiple times, she can shift into that as her true form. If you want to see what we're looking at, look up on Instagram, The Real Nerdy Hero. He's got a picture of Jessica Chastain and then like some comic book frame of Miss Sinister.
It matches up pretty good.
You're welcome, Real Nerdy Hero.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
It would be really, really cool.
What did I have next to talk about? We covered everything in that.
Pretty much.
Tom Hardy.
Yes.
Went on Instagram. I'm going to pull up what he said.
Yeah.
He said,
very vocal,
it doesn't seem very intelligible, but said, just saying, Venom suit, myths, usually asinine, circulate about things usually by those who have failed to garner credible intel.
Yep.
I did not misspeak there. That's literally what it says.
Yep.
Which he sounds like Trump. But the point is, it is, according to Tom Hardy, not true that the suit is just at the end. That makes me happy.
That makes me happy, very much so.
Yeah.
Because it takes out so many of the writing issues that I originally had with it, in the sense where if it's like, if they really did have the suit on in the final act, then that means he uses his suit for the first time in the final act, and he's also meant to overcome 3 or 4 symbiotes at the final act, too. And we're like, what the hell is going on?
No, the rumor was he's using all the powers the suit gives him without you ever seeing the suit.
So dumb.
And then at the end, he goes full on, which... Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah,
everyone knows that about me.
Yep.
I'm glad Ben is on board with this.
Yep. I don't like that final suit
I think if you're doing a comic book movie, don't try and shy away from the fact that you're using the imagery from the comic book.
Yes. It makes it too real if you don't.
I get why deep fans of Venom are like, oh, it's cool, it makes you earn it, but you can't make movies just for that fan. Because that fan's coming no matter what. That fan is you can hit on stuff that will make that fan happy. But if you're looking for a Black Panther type showing, you kind of need to embrace what people are looking for when they come to a comic book movie. Otherwise, it becomes like the problem with the New Mutants trailer, that first one. It just kind of looked like a generic horror movie.
Yeah.
This one just looks like a generic action movie.
Correct.
Which, in a teaser, I don't think you're teasing the right tone then.
No, you're not.
Because you don't want people to think this is just a generic action movie with things flying everywhere.
I agree.
And
motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. Because it does seem like, this is Tom Hardy the movie. And that's really what it looks like. And then you see that one shot, it's like, there's something going on with his veins, maybe-ish.
And I think Tom Hardy has proved he's fine covering up his face for a role. He did it in Dunkirk, he did it in Dark Knight Rises. Yep. He doesn't need, he's not vain in that way he's like Carl Urban when he kept the mask on for Judge Dredd.
He's a great actor.
Yeah,
his eyes
he
are
can
very
act through that. He's proven
sure.
that multiple times. He can act through the whatever is obscuring his face. Yep. So I'm hoping that and I know he's also addressing some of the story beat rumors that were put out, which I still can't find a solid answer to. Every link I get just links me to something else that links me to something else.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen the full readout of what the plot points were, but people were saying it was weird. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could expound on that, but I haven't been able to read what those plot points were.
Yeah.
So that's not everything. Ludwig Göransson will be composing the score for Venom, and
he's
he did
the
Black
same
Panther.
guy that did Black Panther.
That's why I
so
kept bringing
real
it up.
excited for that. Good times.
Also, he speaks exactly like you'd think he would speak with that
Really?
name. I thought because he's with Ryan Coogler and Donald Glover all the time, I thought he would just have an American accent, but no.
Really?
That guy definitely talks like this, and
That's
I really
awesome.
thought that it was a good time.
So what you clearly heard there was a really, really good British accent.
Yeah. I'm great at British accents.
It's a really good. No, it's not.
It's definitely not a Swedish accent, which I'm pretty sure he's Swedish.
Yeah.
I think the next thing
It's
is
a European accent.
Speaking of Donald Glover,
Yeah.
he is no longer doing Deadpool for FX.
Yeah,
I can't tell if
he
this
had a
is.
bit of a public fallout with that too.
Yeah, I didn't get why people were like, "Oh, is this really the script?" Like, this is clearly not the script.
I think he just wrote that. Like,
He wrote
for
it
shits
to
and giggles.
Well, no giggles.
But at the
He
same-
wrote it to start shit.
But
He-
but like honestly, like I read it, and I thought it was funny. I
yeah,
thought
no,
there
it's
was a
funny, but
lot of
it's
funniness to
very
it.
much
But
like the whole
it's-
point of it. When you get to the end of it, and it's Deadpool
Yep.
being like, "Well, then why did you hire me to do this if you were never gonna like?"
It's
let me
very
do-"
much. Yeah.
It's quite clear he is Deadpool because he doesn't speak like Deadpool throughout
he
that. He speaks like the characters in Atlanta.
Yep.
It's very clear that Deadpool is Donald Glover in that situation,
Yes.
and that where are they? Kenya? I can't remember where they
Somewhere like that.
are.
Yeah. And he's
that
like protecting
Kenyan is
Sudan and-
Marvel being
yeah.
like, "Hey, can you write a thing?"
Yeah.
Which is the white rhinoceros he has to save.
Yep.
Nothing about that reads as like, "Oh, this was really going to be the episode." I'm like not pretty sure. I'm 100% positive that was him venting about that whole situation.
That's what I was
in a funny way.
getting from it too. I was just like, this doesn't feel like an episode because it's way too topical. Like right now, it's just like it's hitting on every note that like this breakup, whatever you want to call it, this parting of ways. It's a hilarious script, and it's brilliant from the perspective of, hey, here's a giant middle finger to you guys for taking me off this or whatever.
So I can't tell. Is it
difference?
FX and Donald Glover still on good terms, or is everyone on bad terms?
I think FX and Donald Glover are still on good terms because of Atlanta.
I
being
should
so
give
good.
credit to his brother Stephen Glover
Yes.
as well. So sorry to ice him out of the conversation. It's the
Correct.
Glovers. We will reference them as the Glovers from henceforth.
Glover
in
brothers.
terms of the Glover brothers. Easy for me to say.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're not doing. I can see though the way he was talking about Deadpool that it might not jive with what they want to do with Deadpool.
Which it's very interesting to me because it's just like a lot of people have brought this up. It's like, yeah, you have a white guy that's like has a mouth and then like is basically like all these different things in this day and age. I'm like, well, that doesn't stop him from making the movie. And then like even in the script, they're like, yeah, but this is like all black writers doing this. So, and Deadpool's listening to hip hop or whatever. So Deadpool's black, right? Like they make that joke in that. And it's just like, what the hell's going on here? I have no idea what's going on.
No,
But
I think this was more if this was gonna not live at FX or be on the Disney thing.
Right.
I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
That FX kind of got lost in the shuffle there of them being like, maybe we want this Deadpool thing to be on our streaming service.
Yeah. Which could be a possibility.
Which I'm hearing conflicting things about. People are saying it's going to be more family oriented, which then Deadpool doesn't.
Then why are you
live
doing
there?
a Deadpool? Yeah, that would be horrible. I would not want to watch that.
But that's why I say conflicting, because if they were just trying to do that whole show, why would anyone think they were trying to put it on that streaming service?
Right.
So I'm not willing to point any fingers yet because I don't have any real information other than it's not happening.
Yeah, but to me, it's pretty interesting the way it's falling out right now. In the sense where Donald Glover's like, yeah, they said it was scheduling conflict. There wasn't. Here's proof, and he just like he.
But he says that.
But
the fact that that script was clearly written for those tweets, cancels out the first part.
Yeah,
that's why I'm not really trying to get into it because it's not clear what happened at all.
Well, more on that as the story
I've heard
develops.
of people who were writing on that show, so clearly they were in production.
Yes,
that part is sure.
Yeah. Well, they're still going to go ahead with the show. It's just not with Donald Glover.
No, they're not going ahead with the show.
They canceled the axed the show entirely.
It's
I thought they just like
right
separated the
No.
Donald Glover writer thing. No, wow,
it's just not happening now.
Well, I'd be okay.
That doesn't
with,
mean it'll never happen. I'm just saying it's not happening now.
I'm better with that than a PG-13 Deadpool. Like that just doesn't make sense to me anymore.
What I'm saying is it probably means that it's going to be PG-13 because that's what they wanted. But as people said, FX was the place for that to live. Like it's got Atlanta. It's got things like The Americans. Like, you can do. It used to not let you swear, but you can definitely swear now. You can totally do whatever you want. And it's animated, so you don't have to worry about like nudity and stuff like that. It's too bad because I would have liked that matchup.
I would have loved that. I was really looking forward to it, but we'll see.
In good news, though, in terms of black creators getting to do things, Ava DuVernay is going to be doing New Gods. Probably. Who knows?
That's
DC definitely announces a lot of things that don't come to fruition.
Yeah.
But for now...
that Cyborg movie going along, DC.
Or the Nightwing.
Or the Nightwing movie, or the Batgirl movie, or wait, why do you guys keep making these announcements? Oh, yeah.
What makes sense to me is this is far enough removed, kind of like Shazam, that other than all the rumors that Superman will be in it. But that's its own thing.
Yep.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy, this can be its own thing somewhere else. Correct. And if they ever wanted to connect it, they could, but they never have to connect it.
Exactly.
Which makes sense to go that route if they're trying to do some damage control. And as I said, I don't think they're apples to apples comparison, but
no, they're not.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy, when I heard it, I was like, I don't care.
Yep.
And then I ended up loving the movies.
Made me care.
So I'm hoping
absolutely.
it is the same with this, where I'm like, don't care.
Yep.
I guess the difference is Darkseid is tied to New Gods in a big way. I bet Thanos is tied to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
So
it could be
finding
the same
more
level,
comparisons.
Right? There's definitely more comparisons, and it's like definitely small little overlaps. And you would like,
and
New
Thanos
Gods would
is based
not
on New Gods
fighting Darkseid. That's a thing. We know that for a fact. New Gods would not be fighting Darkseid.
I don't know that for a fact.
Well,
same way Thanos. I know they didn't fight him, but he still showed up in the Guardians of the Galaxy
but
movie.
I feel like it's a big, like giant blunder. Which actually, it is a possibility that DC would be able to do this on film. That they teased him in Justice League, and then they're not going to follow through with it. Especially because the Steppenwolf was supposed to be there to bring in Darkseid and all that kind of stuff. So they're screwing this up. Again,
I don't know that they're screwing it up. I think they're just
they
pivoting, and then they're like, no, look over here.
Whatever. I think they're screwing it up. Big time. I think they screwed up since day one. But
yeah,
whatever.
But I think the precedent of Guardians of the Galaxy shows that it's not a screw up. It's just a pivot.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's getting your mind off of the characters you actually love and giving them a chance to do something new.
Yep.
Which I'm happy about.
Yep.
Then that's all I have to say about that. Because the next DC thing is Pedro Pascal.
Yes. Oh, right.
Is in Wonder Woman 2.
Yep.
Just like Kristen Wiig is.
Mm-hmm.
So people have said he's going to be Vandal Savage, which I guess. I don't think he will be. I'm just saying their guess is as good as mine. I thought he would.
I think he's going to be a personal throwaway.
The thing that made the most sense to me is he would be the equivalent of like the group she was with Steve Trevor. Like,
do you think she's going to be in a group this time? I think she's going to be.
I think there's always going to be an aspect
solo now.
No, I think there's always going to be an aspect of some kind of team thing. That seems to be the way to move forward with these movies. I think that's what's going to happen. Right. Is she's going to have, even if it's not a team, he'll be like a version of that.
You mean kind of like how Thor and Ragnarok had Team Thor?
Yeah, all the heroes have some kind of support system, and I think he'll be a part of that support system. We need to move on though. Yep. We cannot do any more news. We have to talk about Ready Player One.
All right, so. Welcome to our entree. We are talking about Ready Player One. Of course, a film adaptation of a novel that I did not get to read, so I can't compare the novel, to the source material, to the book. I mean, to the movie. But, of course, watched it earlier this week. Came out. Steven Spielberg. Loved it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't. I had more fun than I thought I would. I haven't been a big fan of Steven Spielberg films. Right. I think the last one I legitimately liked. If Minority Report came after Catch Me If You Can, then Minority Report.
Right.
So depending on the placement of those movies, that's the last Steven Spielberg movie. I was like, wow, yeah. Lincoln was fine, but Minority Report was the last time I was like, holy shit.
Right.
I think that this movie is good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything bad to say about it.
I feel like this movie is good.
I had fun, especially during the race scene. That was really well.
The race was really, really well
put
done.
together.
I loved it.
At first, I was like, I really hate the way his avatar walks. I don't like that bop. It's not a good.
You didn't like his stride?
Just walk normal, please.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was fun. They said Letitia Wright was in that movie. I did not see her at all.
See Letitia Wright.
She's on the cast list, and when IMDb was like promoting it, they promoted that she was in it. I think she's like a Red Seb #1 or something. I was like, that's.
I'm looking through the cast list right now, and I don't see her name.
Yeah, no, she's on there. Unless someone took it off after this weekend, being like, no, she's not in it.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think that wasn't gonna make me like the movie anymore. I liked the woman who was in Tomb Raider. I liked her in this movie. I don't remember her name. Her name was Finale in this, though.
Finale.
Yeah, she's like Ben Mendelsohn's sidekick.
Yep.
She's nice. I liked Olivia Cook, I guess. She's good. She was a strong lead.
She was a strong lead.
Lena Waithe was good. Better than I thought she would be. Only because I've seen her mostly in Master of None, where I'm like, I like your writing. Yeah. You could get better at acting, and then she did.
The funny thing is, like, during that entire time before I figured out that, she was catfishing or whatever, like a guy presented as a guy avatar or whatever, as H or Helen. I was like, the entire time I was like, I didn't look at the cast list whatsoever, except for Ben Mendelsohn, and I didn't even know T.J. Miller was in this. So yeah, I looked at this and I was like, I wonder if that's Lena Waithe. Because I'm like, that's a lot of similarities between like what she does in Master of None versus this too, and it'd be really, really cool. And then like, sure enough, she showed up and was like, yeah, that's awesome. And then of course, IROC being T.J. Miller was the best thing in the world.
I think they scaled back on promoting him being in it.
Yeah, they definitely scaled back
recent
mishaps in the whole Me Too movement. So yeah, but him being IROC was just absolutely hilarious to me. It was just really, really funny how like tonally he was just like every single time. It's like, I got this thing going on with my neck.
I wish because awesome. I'm always down for humor. I wish Ben Mendelsohn's character played into that more. He kind of just ignored those beats.
Oh yeah,
so it felt flat to me. Like I liked the humor. It's not a matter of his delivery not working because it did. But it really felt like it was a different movie because he's just saying those lines and no one is really acknowledging that he's saying it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like for TJ Miller, it's like him just playing tennis against a brick wall. He's never going to win, but at the same time, he can get really, really good. And that's exactly how the delivery was to me. He's like, oh yeah, he makes all these jokes, and Ben Mendelsohn is just going to blow by them. He's like, yeah, get over, you're not. He does that very, very well, of course, Ben Mendelsohn. But of course, not having that back and forth where you want like TJ Miller or IROC to actually get to Mendelsohn at some point, he just never really does it.
No. Well, I didn't get the sense he was trying to get to him. No. I thought he was, like I said, just in a different movie where if he was in a different movie, someone would have acknowledged what he was saying and it would have gone somewhere. I was surprised that Simon Pegg was in it. I feel like I remember that they said he was in it, but when I saw him, I was like, "Oh, cool, Simon Pegg."
I was just more of like,
your friend was in Tomb Raider. This is good.
For Simon Pegg, I was just like, I was surprised his role wasn't bigger. But at the same time,
the movie's about him.
Yeah, but it was just like,
you wanted more screen time.
I wanted more screen time.
I don't think that would work. I think he needs to be.
Yeah. Until we figured out he was the curator, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." Yeah, okay.
I forgot that he was the curator until you said that. Yeah. I was more like, he needs to be out of it because you can't give the audience too much time to realize how important he is to the storyline.
Yeah.
Because as I said, this is a fine movie.
It's a fine movie.
I wasn't like, I love this. Visually, it was great. I'm glad I saw it on the big screen. Yeah.
I'm glad that the whole movie was not from the VR perspective.
I was worried about how much of that was.
Yeah, I was really happy. That was like, okay, Act 1 was heavy in it. That makes sense. Act 2, ooh, real world stuff. Act 3, a blend. This is perfect. Handled it really, really well because I was legit afraid of them like having like, oh, this is all VR stuff and like all CGI.
I would have been fine if they picked one of there, but I'm glad that there was a good mix.
Yeah.
Hannah John Kamen is her name that I'm sticking with. That's what I'm going to call her until I hear otherwise. That was finale. That a character written for the movie, not in the book.
Right.
Cool. I want to see. I guess what I'm getting at is it didn't seem like she had much to do. She kind of got sidelined.
She really didn't.
But I like that actress. She commanded the scene she was in, and I'd like to see more of her. I'm hoping she's used better in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Is mostly what I'm saying.
Yep. Really, really like that actress, but just didn't get a lot to do. She was more like the muscle henchman person.
I guess that's
that was it.
It's a symptom of not actually being in the book and not having a lot.
You have to have a character that doesn't really attach and everything like that. But no, this was I love this movie. This was a fantastic movie. The visuals were good. The throwbacks were good. It was just, and to me, it was like it's a very interesting vibe in this, because in the Oasis, the biggest thing is like, if your avatar dies, you lose all your progress no matter what.
I like that.
That was the coolest thing to me, because I'm like, even when I play video games, like I'll take stupid risks just knowing that I can like respawn and everything like that. But the idea of like, it challenged me mentally in the sense where it's like, what if I didn't have a respawn, and literally like every time I would die, I would lose all my gear and all that kind of stuff. And of course, that mode exists in like Diablo, all these MMO kind of games and everything like that. That does exist. If you die, and that's extremely hardcore, you lose all your progress, everything.
I feel like we should talk about the plot points. We're kind of John Dam. So the movie is Wade Watts. Is that his name?
Yep.
He's Parzival.
Yep.
And the what I did like was the idea that when Halliday dies, he's like, hey, everybody, I'm Willy Wonka, but with video games. Now come to my factory and get the 3 keys and an Easter egg, and you'll get my inheritance. Controlling thing. Cool setup. I'm in.
Yep.
You don't have to sell me on that. And also, they wanted Gene Wilder to play Halliday. Maybe that would have been too on the nose. But
that would have been.
He turned it down, so maybe he knew that, and also he died.
I like Mark Rylance as Halliday.
I've never really connected to him as an actor. He seems a little too removed. I don't really get what's going on.
But I mean, like, that's kind of he would be for this role.
This is the best role he's been in for me. But like, I feel like he works better on stage. Like, I get that actors love him. Like, I've never talked to an actor friend of mine who doesn't love him. But for me, I'm just like, are you a human, or like what's going on, man? What is your deal?
It's kind of like that Eddie Redmayne thing that you brought up, where it's like,
but he was good in Fantastic Beasts. He wasn't as crazy. Yes. And the Danish girl.
Yep.
Mark Rylance worked for me in this movie, so that was good because he's crazy. But so the setup, and then the idea that for 5 years no one had ever beat the race, and I did like that like puzzle solving stuff of like him being like, okay, so
that was fantastic.
I just need to go backwards then, and I was like, cool, that. And it's, even when they did the montage of like, I told my best friend H, and then he must have told this person, and then you can see everyone getting
Saito,
that was awesome. So I was on board based on that mechanic of the storyline, that it was like a bunch of puzzles they had to solve, and then you could see the cool ways they did it. The part that sticks out for me that I don't know if I don't like or I really like is the Shining stuff, because I remember thinking, you really need to know the Shining. And I know they hang a lantern or like hang a hat on it by being like, being like, I never saw it, I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
But I was just like, I don't know if that's enough, because like my theater was a lot of kids, and I'm like, I know what's about to happen. Like when they're like, oh, we're going into 237, I'm like, I don't think kids should be seeing this right now. Yeah. And then but then they did the funny thing of her hands covering the nudity and stuff, but I'm like, what? Why are they going this way with it?
I forgot about that. That was distracting. That's like that scene in Beowulf where he's running around naked, and they're like,
that's what I'm saying. Like I was just like,
it's distracting.
Is this like Steven Spielberg being like, let me show you what I would do with The Shining? Or it was just like, and I can't, and as I said, I don't know that I fall on a bad side or a good side, but I was just like, this is something. And then they kind of just abandoned, like, oh, this part is dancing with zombies.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yep.
Interesting. But they really dug into The Shining.
They really did.
Because what I was telling my mom is, what works about the movie is you don't need to know any of the cultural relevance of these things, really,
because it's very well explained in dialogue, for sure.
Or it's the movie is done where it's not important that you know exactly who whoever from Akira is. You can just be like, oh, that's a cool bike.
Yeah, you
don't need to be like, oh, but because she has that bike, she can do this, this, and this. Like, there's no need to lean in that way. You can just be like, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
No, that's other than the Shining scene where I was like, and it's maybe because I know The Shining, where I'm like, but if he goes in there, then this will happen, and then this will, and all of that stuff happens. And the only thing they didn't show was the deteriorated twins.
Yes,
but then they showed the messed up woman. I was just like, wow, okay, they're really going for it.
Yeah, they really leaned into a lot with The Shining for there.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time with that, and I was
really
just like,
enjoyed that part though.
That's what I'm saying. It stood out to me, so that's important. That's good. I was just like, oh, like why did The Shining get that much love as opposed to something else? Or I loved when the T-Rex from Jurassic Park comes into the race.
Yeah. That's great.
I know that Steven Spielberg wanted to take out a lot of references to his movies, but I'm glad they kept that. That worked.
Me too. I'm really glad they kept it and everything like that.
That was good stuff. But yeah, basically the idea is at the end of it, what's his name? Marzipan? No, Wade Watts.
Parzival. Parzival.
Something like that. Parzival. That's it. That's what you said. He decides, no, I'm not going to be like Halliday, and I'm going to keep my team with me. I'm going to keep it intact.
Right.
And that way I won't be lonely like him. And I even like that there was the misdirected. I was like, oh, it's about the kiss he didn't take with Simon Pegg's wife. What's her name? Oh, I feel
Mrs.
bad.
Morrow.
Yes. With Ogden Morrow's wife, he loved her. That was his true love. And I was like, no, it's more about that he had a friendship that he ruined and that he lost sight of it. And then just became a very lonely person. And I like that Ogden Morrow didn't turn out to be the bad guy. I was like, wait, he's off screen a lot. I feel like he's going to be like, you're going to find out he killed him or something, or they're going to play into like he didn't like that he dated his wife first. I'm glad that didn't factor in.
I thought he, like, mind you, not having read the book, I thought he was going to be like, oh, he's actually the CEO of IOI.
I thought that was. I thought
like that's what it was, and Ben Mendelsohn's the one doing like his.
But then they did a good job of being like, nah, Ben Mendelsohn was just intern there, and they had that one scene. He was like, no, there should be a tiered thing, and you're like, oh yeah, he's just about money. He's no good for this. Yeah.
And that was a great scene to me. It's like, oh, it should be this. What about bronze, metal, silver, all this kind of stuff? And Halliday's like, yeah, I'll have my coffee black, please.
Yeah, the only thing he knew about me was how I like my coffee.
Yeah,
that was a good thing. I'm trying not to say so much, but it's not working.
It's hard. It's hard to
it is hard. So I have confirmed that Letitia Wright is still on the cast list for IMDb as Reb in The Safe House.
Reb Kid
with Kay Alexander.
What? Who's that? I don't know. Whatever.
I feel like if Black Panther didn't do so well, they wouldn't have promoted her in this. But I wish they made use of her somehow, because I'm like, this wasn't an issue of me like looking at my phone and missing her blink and you'll miss a thing. Like I had no choice but to look at the screen, and I did not see her. But that's too bad, because I thought I would have liked to see her come at the end or something. I thought she was going to be like in the group of because they had that one storyline of the redhead woman who was like, oh, they need to play this game, they need to, and then she kind of I was like, is she going to do something more?
I love that whole team, team of like nerds and just like just arguing about like which kind of like that was the best thing in the world to me. That was so much fun to watch.
And at the end of the day, they were like, no, we're not trying to play to win, we're playing to find the Easter eggs. And like I was like, oh good, stop and smell the roses lesson. Nice. Not my style though. When I beat a video game, it's to do it in the fastest way possible without any achievements. I just want to get to the end and be like,
I don't
good,
get
that. I did it.
I'm a big fan of this play style where it's just like, ooh, let's explore all this stuff. Let's collect all these things. And
what I'm thinking of is I don't do Riddler challenges.
That's fair.
Fuck those things.
That's fair. I enjoy them, but then I also enjoy winning them, which means I enjoy them for about 15 minutes until I realize I'm mentally inferior, and then I just Google how to do it. And then
that's what I'm saying. Like YouTube and Google really help if I really wanted to get those things.
That's exactly it.
I know I'm not going to figure it out on my own.
No, there's some stuff in there that's just like you will never be able to figure out your own unless you're dedicating like a full day to actually having the patience of doing that. In which case, I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
I have time. I have to watch movies like Ready Player One for you guys.
The other thing I liked was when he like won and he just went on a shopping spree, and then it was like, oh, you made a real world purchase, and he gets the box. So I was like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. I wonder how much time passed before he got that, mostly because I'm always about wait times. But then I was like, why would you wear the full suit if you knew you were going into a dangerous thing? I wouldn't want to feel that pain of like getting shot or something.
Yeah, like, because I've played with those suits before, and it was like this VR, like this, I guess it would be AR kind of experience, where like there was this one company in Toronto that had like these suits that would shock you if you got hit, and it was like laser tag.
Yeah,
so it was a lot of fun, and you can crank up the pain depending on how sadistic you were and everything like that.
But it looked like if you got sliced, you'd be like, oh, that really felt like I got sliced, instead of just like a
yeah. So it was, I don't know what it would feel like, but it was, we know from
we know that
Sorrento,
you can feel
a kick
pretty
to the groin.
That, but also when she's like fondling his groin.
Yeah.
When she's like, "Did you bring
Did
the
you
like it was? I guess it's the opposite of did you bring protection? It was more like, did you bring this stuff so I can touch you up?
Yeah.
And I was just like, so it gets subtle things as well. It's not just a punch that you feel. And I just was thinking, I would never wear that if I was going into battle.
I legit thought he was getting a lap dance during that scene. Like when you said
No, they showed
trailer,
her finger.
Yeah, like when you see that in the trailer, I'm like, he's getting a lap dance. He's so getting a lap dance. Like, what's Spielberg doing right now? Like, this is not his MO. But then they built it in, so it was like, oh, okay. You can infer what people would do with this.
It was not as kid friendly as I thought it would be.
It's definitely not as kid friendly as I thought it would be. There's definitely a lot of stuff like during, like after I watched it, I went home and I was like, I wonder if I was a kid, would I have gotten a lot of those adult themed jokes? Because they're very explicitly there in front of you. It's not really that subtle anymore. But either way, it didn't take away. It
depends on, because I know that there's certain things that I just didn't pick up on because it wasn't part of my everyday life. The sexual stuff, I think, if anything, I'd be like, I don't get what's going on.
Right.
Like, the thing I always go to is like, I didn't understand that Ace Ventura was getting head at the beginning of the first Ace Ventura. I just knew she was like, do you want me to take your pants off? And I was like, why would he care about that? Keep kissing him, baby.
Yeah.
But that's an overt thing that's happening, and you see him dang like that. But as a kid, I wasn't like, oh, I see what's on. I was just like, that's weird. All right, moving on.
This is a silly way.
Yeah, so I think it is good for kids to watch. I was like, oh, there's certain, like the Shining thing leaning into that. I was like, that seems like it would get really scary for mostly the younger kids I saw behind me and in front of me.
Right.
And then my worry that they're going to scream and then I'm going to have my time ruined.
I only had one issue with this whole movie, was the fact that they made such a big deal being like, you never tell your real name in the Oasis and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that, Parzival's like, this is my best friend, H. I've never met this person before. I've never met this person in real life and all that kind of stuff. But all of a sudden, they know where they live in Columbus, Ohio, in the stacks. And they're just all of a sudden, oh, we're going to save you and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, that's really interesting.
Because what's her face
Artemis?
sent out Artemis sent the information and she had scouts.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like when she sent out that information, don't you think that like Sorrento and that like IOI would have been like, oh, you know what? There's a message received.
But I think they got around that with when the guy was like, how did this loser from the stacks win? And he's like, here's a better question. Who cares?
Right.
Because his focus isn't let me kill this kid. It's I just want to win.
Yep.
So he doesn't really care what they're doing. It was more Finale's thing that like, I'm gonna get them. Right. And obviously, once it started looking like they would actually win, he cared more. Mm-hmm. But I think the idea there is they're not his equal, right, at any point. So he wouldn't waste his time looking into that. Mm-hmm. He would just be like, I'm going to stop them in the game. And he already had his plan to stop them, which was the orb that was going to block them. So he already had his thing set up. Mm-hmm. I think to your point, though, it was useless information about, don't share your information. Yeah. Because it doesn't really play into anything.
It doesn't play into anything.
It only gives it only gives you the ability to be like, I get why they wouldn't know who they are in real life.
See, the thing is, it does play into something, but it just happens so fast we don't even care about it. It's just like that whole, like the aunt and uncle, like the aunt and the abusive boyfriend die, and that whole Stacks things die. So there's real world consequence to it. It's just like we at no point cared about it at all. We cared.
That wasn't because he said his real name. It's because they had him.
Yes.
They had footage of him.
Yeah. But either way, it was just like, it was really, really weird because like there was at no point in time did we like hear about the real world stuff, because they like Spielberg made the real world so abysmal.
Yeah.
He painted the world where it's like after this happened, like, and everyone stopped caring, and everyone stopped doing this, and everyone had the Oasis and all that kind of stuff, and everyone loved the Oasis, and that's what we live and do now. And even the idea of like, oh, the IOI can be like, oh, we're punishing you, we're serving this warrant for like 20,000 credits that you didn't pay or whatever.
Oh, I like that. They're like, oh no, we just took care of that, so now you have to pay us.
Yeah,
you had a debt, we took it over, and now you owe us. You work for us.
It's I don't know. It's a really interesting premise and everything like that. I really, really enjoyed it. But they made me definitely care more about the Oasis than the real world. It had no real world implications to me.
One review I read on Dork Shelf said that,
like what you did there,
the most of the interesting stuff that we haven't seen before in movies gets put to the periphery, aka like all that, the mechanics of what IOI does to people to enslave them, essentially. So I guess you're proving their point on Dork Shelf that there was more interesting things that we'd never seen.
Yeah, I wanted
that
those explored.
Didn't get explored.
I totally wanted those explored. I really did, and it sucked to me. But at the same time, it would have been like, oh, it would have been too distracting because this is a long movie too. It was like
2 hours and 20 minutes. I remember seeing that before going in and being like, no, thank you. But I also didn't think I was going to like the movie.
Right.
That was more my response. I was just like, I don't want 2 hours and 20 minutes of this. So I looked up, is there any post credits? And when I found out no, I was like, thank you. Yeah. Good night, everybody.
It was weird because I'm like, is there going to be a post credit scene? Is there not? Who cares? Like, I can't see them.
Well, if Letitia Wright was in the post credit scene, I would have stayed for it.
That's right. Yeah, that's fair.
What are those? No, I think the movie is fun, if not somewhat of a missed opportunity to explore those things. But as you said, it's based on the book, and so they had to go certain ways with it, which makes sense.
My only question would be, what was the original book? So, like, what kind of imagery did the original book have that the licensing and legal issues restricted them from having in this movie? Because, I mean, like, they did have Star Wars references, and I would have personally...
Did they show any
No, they didn't show any Star Wars stuff.
Because the whole promise of a Millennium Falcon is... Wait, do you have that?
Yeah, and because Spielberg and George Lucas were, like, friends and everything like that, I'm sure
Hopefully they're still friends.
I hope they're still friends. I think they're still friends. I don't know if they're... I don't care, to be perfectly honest, if they're friends. It's the more realistic thing. But I'm so sure he would have been like, oh my God. And like to Lucas, like, oh, here's what I would have done with this. And here's what I would have done with this. And here's a Millennium Falcon flying in the background or something like that.
Maybe it is in the background.
Maybe.
There's a lot going on in that movie.
I mean, like, I definitely would have to rewatch that movie a couple times to be like, oh, there's Blanca. There's this person. There's this person, which I did see. And I'm like, there's Cigar.
Or you could go to dorkshelf.com where they actually break down
10
of the most obscure. Maybe it's not most obscure. I guess I could have read it off the site. But they've got a breakdown of 10 Easter eggs you may have missed.
Oh,
so
nice. Don't have to check that out.
Definitely head over there.
But yeah, so it would have been really, really cool because I definitely want to rewatch that. But to see some Star Wars references in there, because it's just like, it's hard for me to think of a world where this guy loves all these franchises so much but didn't mention Star Wars. But of course that's obviously
it's also heavily established in the book and in this movie that he is about 80s and 90s pop culture, which Last Jedi came out in the 80s, or I guess both those
Empire
came out,
and Empire and Jedi Returns come.
Never mind. Then I thought I was onto something.
That's why I was like, there's definitely a lot. It would have been nice to know what, like, Marvel / Lucasfilms MCU, if they like allowed them to take this Spielberg to do this thing, like what kind of different things would there be? I'm pretty sure
I guess the idea is that's Disney owned stuff now, and this was a Warner Brothers movie, so exactly they tried to get around anything they could to do with that,
open them up legally for whatever. But it was still good to see all those like throwbacks to there's the Firefly Serenity ship and all that kind of stuff.
Didn't even catch that.
I loved it because I love Firefly. But that was really, really fun. And to me, I'm just like, wait a minute. That was out of place in the sense where I'm like, that's not 70s or 80s. That was
80s, 90s.
Yeah.
But it's not either of those.
It's
but what I'm saying is,
for sure.
Because I also heard like, oh, there's Kevin Smith references, and I know he has Clerks, but I'm like, would that count as like? I feel like all of his movies were mostly like 2000s.
Yep.
Like, I know he's got Mallrats, Clerks, and Dogma. I really thought I was onto stuff, but I was wrong. So Kevin Smith is definitely 80s, 90s. Yeah, I guess there's just certain things that Steven Spielberg would have to know about to be able to dig into.
Exactly.
And the Star Wars thing, I guess, is easier. Like it's an easier thing to explain away as who wants to get tied up in Disney logistics, trying to get the imagery of that.
No.
When you've got a whole bunch of other stuff you can play with.
It was still nice for them to be able to acknowledge in dialogue, to be like, oh, do you want a Millennium Falcon? And he's like, wait, do you have one of those? That's awesome. Like, that's how much they care about this game, and that's really, really cool.
Or when he tried to expose him as a poser by being like, oh yeah, what high school did you want to go to?
Yeah.
And then the guy in the ear's like, no.
That's a trick.
Those aren't John Hughes movies. Don't do it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun for me to see. I'm just like, this is so good to see it.
And I like the subtle thing of like when he's getting serious, he takes out the earpiece so that he can be like, I don't care about this anymore. I'm going to go free.
Right. Those good times. Anyways, so this is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed this movie. As much as I thought I would. I didn't think this was like the best movie in the world, but I definitely enjoyed this movie for sure. It was a lot of nostalgia, pop culture, and still able to do this. And it's definitely one of those things where right now what I have to do is read the book to compare to the movie. I know
I'm always a fan of reading the book after the fact because I don't want to be disappointed when I go to the movie, which I feel like ultimately is what's going to happen.
I feel usually that does happen for me. To read the book before the movie, I get disappointed by the movie.
Yeah, like I haven't, other than Aiden, I don't know too many people who are like, I still love Game of Thrones even though I read the books.
Yeah, but I feel like people like Aiden have to acknowledge that they're appreciating it on two different levels. Like, you have to appreciate the book as a book.
No, Aiden actually does what you're saying. I'm saying I don't know too many people.
Yeah.
I feel like they feel the show is lesser than because you build that rapport with the book and your imagination, and then TV takes that away from you by being like, no, here it is. This is what it looks like.
And
this
here's
is what's
our interpretation as opposed to what was happening in your mind and everything like that.
So that's why I don't like reading the book ahead of time.
That's fair.
I feel like I don't need to set up expectations.
Yeah. So what I like to do is treat the movie as a trailer to the book.
Yeah.
And then use the book to build up a bigger world, because there's obviously more detail in the book that you're like, oh yeah, that would have been cool. And then like that allows you to reappreciate the movie, to be like, oh, like that was a little nod to this like element in the book and all that kind of stuff. And this, where they couldn't explore this in the movie because it's already 2.5 hours, which is friggin' long. But at the same time,
to be fair, I didn't feel like it was.
It didn't feel long at all. It felt like it was the appropriate length of time. So it was a well-made movie.
So well-paced.
Yep.
Good on you, Steven Spielberg.
Good movie for sure.
You might have a future in filmmaking. Yeah, it's fine. I haven't really gotten more excited about it as the conversations go.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I had fun. Good for that movie.
Yeah.
Better than BFG.
Yeah, yep.
Although in that movie, Steven Spielberg made the Queen of England fart, and I was like, that's genuinely funny.
That is genuinely funny.
What happens is genuinely funny. And I feel like more people should talk about that.
When you have world leaders farting in movies, it's always a good time.
I guess it's not just that it farts, it's that it like a big green bubble comes out.
That's awesome. Like, there's nothing good about the movie The Interview, except for the part where Kim Jong-un unfarts.
Randall Park is a treasure.
He is a treasure.
Anytime he is in something, he is probably going to be in my top 3 best favorite things about whatever it is.
Yes, that's correct. He's friggin' fantastic.
And he will be an Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
That'll be great.
I also, hey, by the way, I did like the multicultural team they put together.
I do enjoy that.
Where the white people were the minority. It was, I don't know what they were, but it seems like one of them was at least Japanese.
So Sho and Daito, I assume you're talking about. So Sho was Chinese and Daito was Japanese.
Yes.
I love Sho too. It's like, what? I can't be good because
I have to wear a sign?
I'm 11 years old, and I'm just like, that's so funny to me. I'm like, why would that even matter? Like, the only time that it's annoying when I play like online with a lot of like people is like, oh, this kid just really doesn't shut up. And that's the only time it's annoying.
But his character didn't talk that much when they were in, and I was like, cool. Yeah, so they had Sho and Daito.
Yes.
And Lena Waithe's H.
Yep.
So that was cool. And what's
That
her
was,
name? Helen?
I really like that. Yeah, Helen H.
Yeah, no, they've been really pushing her being in this movie, like on the posters and everything, like using her real face on the posters. Awesome. So the only thing I knew going into it was that, she's playing the bigger guy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I don't think, because I didn't think it was catfishing so much as that's just a thing that happens.
No,
some people use the opposite sex.
It wasn't catfishing. I just couldn't find a term for it. It was whatever.
No, but I knew what you meant. Like, because she brings up catfishing in the movie.
Yes,
she's like, no, you don't know Artemis. It could be a 300-pound guy in his basement. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, in Detroit or whatever. Yeah. It was hilarious. Who are you? Like, you know who I am.
Also, they were saying first to the key, first to the egg, right?
Yes.
I honestly, when they first said it in the first race, thought they were saying first to the T, first to the A, and I was like, what? And then people behind me laughed like they got what that meant, and I was like, I am completely out of the loop. But then when she said it in the real world, I was like, oh, that makes way more sense.
Yeah, that race was definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. That was great. And they even got mileage out of it when he's doing it backwards, and you can kind of see the inner workings.
Oh my god, that was fantastic!
Everything about that, because I remember hearing people be like, "Oh, this looks like it's going to be obnoxious,"
right?
But I was like, I feel like they're talking about the part of the trailer where the race happens, and that was the only thing that gave me hope that I was going to like this movie, because I was like, "This looks fun."
Yeah,
and I'm glad it was a race, because at first I was like, "Oh, I'm hoping this is not like a chase scene," but I was like, "Oh, it's a race," and I can appreciate that from video games. Great fun. Wreck-It Ralph, cool, let's go. And it was amazing. It lived up. It exceeded my expectations, especially when they did it backwards. Yeah,
it was really, really good. It was like, especially the fact that they got the what's that car called? The DeLorean in there as his car. I'm like, this is awesome. And like, I really love the visual of like, I'm running on empty, and like,
he just takes people's coins.
Taking coins like during the race and everything. I'm like, that's a lot of skill. That's awesome kind of deal.
And that he always had to like flip up the door to actually see what's going on.
Yeah, it was cool. Great. Like even for him reversing, because you would imagine, you don't have a rear whatever. You had to get that door open.
And maybe I'm dumb, but I do remember being like, so if King Kong is just there and you're gonna die no matter what, what's the point of it?
Yeah.
And then when they were like, you got to go back, it's like, oh my goodness, what an amazing movie this is.
I really love it. It's like the Bill and Ted thing. It's like just a Bill and Ted. Like, yes, this is awesome. Everything about this movie was great. There's so many references and everything. Like,
and I liked seeing Batman climb a mountain at the beginning.
That was a lot of fun. You can climb Mount Everest with Batman. You can do this. And I'm like, this is a really fun movie. I really enjoy this.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
People were mad about the Iron Giant in the trailer, but I felt like he was used well. He doesn't shoot lasers. I'm like, okay, but if you had the Iron Giant in a video game, like I just feel like anyone who said that must not have played like Smash Brothers or something, where like the idea is you just take these characters, and then you fight with them, and then you do cool things.
I don't see what the issue is, because if you're gonna start like
you don't get what Iron Giant's about.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, Iron Giant also does not exist in the same world as Sagat and like the Street Fighter gang. So like once you put those things together, you can't exactly be that faithful to the original.
No, but and also I'm assuming those people also just didn't read the book, because I'm like, that's not the Iron Giant. That's a mod for a character in this game.
That's exactly it. It's just a mod. That's it.
I just wanted to stick up for that before I bash it with my rating.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting to me though how they never at any point in time with Sorrento's avatar or anything like that made him overpowered or anything like that. They never he has all the resources in the world, and he's like, oh, you've got to go to IROC to get that one that protection spell.
That's what I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So when he's doing the shopping, they're like, what's that thing? And it's like, it kills the avatar. And I thought he said, and the human, but I guess they would never put that in a game.
No, they could never.
But I felt like that's what he said, and it was weird. And I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, it doesn't kill you. Okay, cool.
I just feel like because of the real world consequence of like losing your whole progress and everything, like it made everyone care a little bit more.
Because even IROC was like, who we never see in real life. Like, that kills us too, right? And I was just like, yeah, why wouldn't he know that? And I thought that was even more thing of like, what? No, like you can't kill us.
Yeah.
And then, but it doesn't. It never showed up. I must have just misheard it. But I thought there was actual dialogue towards it being like that will kill the user and the avatar.
I think it would. I think it does. That kind of discussion does come up, and then what you see is that I think it's the scene afterwards, after that whole shopping spree, where he goes back to his real house in the real world, and then his aunt's boyfriend is like being a dick about everything. He's like, you took my gloves, I lost my account, and all that kind of stuff. And he was like physically fighting him and all that kind of stuff, right? I think like that's what he meant more than anything else, because of like what it represents, like the prize that you can get if you get all the Easter eggs is like you get $500 billion and the rights to the Oasis and all that kind of stuff. So I felt like that's why it like they invested that much emotionally into it, that they might as well say it in dialogue. I think that's what it was.
To be fair to you and the movie, I don't remember what the dialogue is, so I'm not really willing to get into it, other than you're probably right. That makes more sense. Yeah,
but even
you wouldn't be able to kill anyone.
I love the shopping spree thing, because I'm like, oh my god, the holy hand grenade. That's awesome.
I thought she was, or the Zemeckis cube, and I was like, I get it, because he made Back to the Future. Yep. And then when he brought him, like, see, I am kind of smart. But just the idea at one point where she's like, hey, don't spend all your money. And I thought that was going to come up again, but it didn't.
It never came up again.
He was like, no, I'll do whatever I want. Yeah. And I was like, fair enough, it worked out for you.
Yeah. You know what bothered me too is like, after the first key that he got all that money, you would assume that he'd get the same amount of money for each key that he'd
unless it's just like, oh, good for you. You're actually the first person to ever get a key in like 5 years.
Yeah, because he was the first person ever to get a key.
Yeah, like no one had got it before. Or even come close, because everyone was going forward.
Yeah, and Artemis, Sho, H, and Daito.
Because they don't get money.
Yeah, I don't think
only he did, so I think that was just a one-time thing.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, fair enough. Which does make a whole lot of sense. But, I don't know. Either way, this is a lot of fun. A lot of fun movie. Of course, always love seeing Ben Mendelsohn as a villain role. He's a fantastic villain. I really, really like it. He's someone you really want to hate.
Well, then don't watch Darkest Hour. He is not a villain.
No. Well, that's a shame.
As someone who likes good acting, I was happy he didn't have to be the same thing every time.
True.
Are we going to rate this?
Yeah, I'm giving this an 8.5.
Nice. I thought we were going to have more build up. No, I'm giving it a 7.
Yep.
It was good.
Yeah. No, I'm giving this an 8.5. Just like there was a lot of good stuff about this. All that CGI did make my head hurt a little bit.
I was waiting for that comment. Yep. While I was watching the rest, I'm like, I remember Ben having an issue with Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Yep. I can't imagine this is going well for him.
And it's just because it's from the whole 3D aspect. The moment I watch this on a regular screen, completely fine. Because when I rewatch Guardians 2, there's no issue with it. But the first time in theater, that made me dizzy as hell.
It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in. But whatever. I mean, it's not to blow away. It's just more of my crazy, weird.
I'm just glad we got there, because I was like, no way he didn't have a problem with this.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lead you into it.
I'm just kind of hoping that there's a day where like they do develop a game like this where there's like MMO.
And then you can kill the user and the avatar.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm hoping that's going to be a Star Wars game. So if EA ever unscrews up everything,
we'll day.
We'll see.
What
they are developing it, and they're saying they've learned their mistakes and all that kind of stuff. But it's EA; they don't learn mistakes. They just keep doing the same thing over again. They're sleep bums.
So that's a 8.5 from Ben and a 7 from Daniel. I almost gave it 7.5, but the more we talked about it, the more I was like, man.
Yeah, you're sticking by your 7.
Yeah, like I would probably enjoy rewatching it, but I doubt I will. Yeah. And also, I mean, it's not bad. It is a good, well done movie that had a really fun chase sequence that they got 2 swipes at that worked. Yeah. And I enjoyed the pop culture references. I noticed I liked when he dressed as Prince Michael Jackson, and then eventually
that was a lot of fun.
Well, even Duran Duran, and then eventually Booker Banzai. Even though I've never seen that movie and it means nothing to me.
That means literally nothing to me.
Yeah, but before that, I was on a good ride. Yeah. But yeah, all that stuff I enjoyed. I think that's what works about the movie. It's fun, and you'll get the references you get, and the other references aren't there to like ruin your time. Yeah. You can easily just glaze over them.
Yeah, it's not essential to the storyline.
Yeah,
because and that's what I love about this. Like the stuff that you don't get,
it won't stop you from enjoying it.
It doesn't stop you from enjoying it, but they also do a good job of explaining it in dialogue. And I get the best example would be The Shining, whereas like H is like, I don't watch The Shining, and then they kind of still dialogue you through a lot of it, and if it doesn't really make a difference.
That's why I maybe shouldn't have brought it up as something that sticks out. Other than it was a cool sequence, I think because even if you didn't know The Shining, it still works as a scary moment in the movie that takes you on a ride. It was just like, oh wow, they're really. Whereas The Race was like a bunch of references so that you could move along quickly. I was like, we're really sticking with this one thing, and they're getting a lot, like really pulling the taffy on it. But that's neither here nor there. Fun movie.
Definitely go watch.
Theaters. Definitely see it in the theaters. I would say that. And if you're worried that you didn't care about the 80s or 90s pop culture, it's not going to affect your enjoyment of the movie.
But if you did, it does improve.
It will deepen. Yeah, it will deepen your appreciation of the movie if there's anything in there that you held dear at one point. Thank you very much for listening. Please go on iTunes. I'll call it that for ease. To subscribe to us, rate our podcast, review it. It helps us, and it's just a nice thing to do. Even if you want to give us a bad review, as long as you're writing about us, we will ignore it if it's mean, but I'll probably still read it. Yeah, and
you know what? We like constructive criticism.
Don't even be constructive. Just criticize, and then it will fuel me for the next episode.
Yeah, just ruffle up Daniel's feathers.
Yeah. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Play Music. We're on Apple Podcasts. So there's many ways to listen to us, but it would be great if you could leave the reviews on iTunes. That would really help. Please visit visit dorkshelf.com. We're on there. There's a bunch of different podcasts. That I'm not going to list here. But if you go into the info of this episode on your phone or on the blog page, you'll be able to click and see where there's other podcasts that you might enjoy from dorkshelf.com. I also wrote a review for Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yep.
I also thought that movie was fine. Not as good as Ready Player One, but I was like, yeah, this is fine.
Yeah.
So if you are up for someone who kind of thinks things are fine, definitely read my review there. And we're also on tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten, and Ben has posts up on TDF Everything now. Yeah. tdfeverything.com/BMFS posts.
Yep. So,
boom.
Tell me what you think of the Star Wars post I put up. Act 1. Act 2 will be coming up very shortly. I just started writing that while I was getting my tattoo done. Good times.
That reminds me, I need to see the tattoo when we're done recording. What I think you're definitely a lot of table setting there.
Oh yeah.
So we have definitely established where everyone is. I'm hoping Finn gets a bigger role as things go on, but don't spoil anything for me. And I do like the emotional stuff you're doing with Poe in terms of his inability to see whether or not he can lead or not.
Gotcha.
So everyone should read Ben's post. I already gave the link. I'm not going to do it again. It's too hard. Yep. But you will see it if you go to tdfeverything.com. You will see my writing if you go there as well. In the blog section, all of our stuff is in the blog section of tdfeverything.com. And doorshelf.com has podcasts and some of my writing as well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.
Cheers.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.